This is Speaking of Pets podcast, where we offer you up-to-date, science-based, accurate information.
Oh, Gizmo! Good kitty. You're such a good kitty.
And they're looking up and howling in unison.
If it affects pets, we'll talk about it. The Speaking of Pets podcast is sponsored by Blue Buffalo Veterinary Diets. Love them like family, feed them like family. And Vetramax Veterinary Supply. Vetramax makes it better. Hey everyone, welcome to Speaking of Pets. I'm Dr. Alice Novotny-Jeroman, a board-certified veterinary dermatologist, and
Janet Novotny-King, the doctor's sister. I am not a board-certified allergist. I'm not even medically related. I go to Dr. Google, but we're here to share some really good information to help you be a better pet owner and lover. So here we are.
Hey Janet, today we are so fortunate. We have Rachel Bellis from PETA, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Rachel became PETA's community liaison and executive assistant to the senior vice president of the Cruelty Investigation Division. She also organizes events, both community and political, and has been instrumental in getting legislation passed against dogs being chained. Rachel's worn many hats. She's lived in Italy, Spain, Mexico. She's been a nanny, a teacher, a real estate agent before she decided to follow her passion for animals. And I'm so excited to have her today because you and I, as normal citizens and pet rescuers and pet lovers, we need to know what can we do to change the laws to make them more severe against people that are abusing animals. And not only dogs and cats, I'm talking farm animals, wild animals. So welcome, Rachel. We are so glad to have you today. We're not only honored, but so thankful for what you and what PETA does.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Janet and Alice. It's so nice to meet you and so nice to be here.
Thank you.
First, before we get into PETA, do you have any pets?
I do. I have.
Okay, what do you have?
I have 3 companion animals. I have a cat named Diana and two Chihuahua mixes named Penny Lane and Eli.
Oh. As a veterinarian, I can tell you, Chihuahuas are either love, or ngang. Which are yours?
So Penny Lane was a Chihuahua we adopted from PETA, and she had been sort of passed around to different families. She had a broken leg that was never properly vetted. She's missing a toe. She has a injury on the top of her head. So she takes a while to warm up. She's incredibly attached to my partner. And first, they just bonded immediately. She chose him as her human, and he adores her like the sun shines on her. And our other dog, Eli, our other Chihuahua mix, he's a little bit fearful of strangers, but he is super, super affectionate and loving. So we kind of have the best of both worlds, you know. I do love a spicy Chihuahua, so
yes, spicy.
They fit right
I love
in.
That.
By the way, is a medical term.
Yes. Right.
But we all knew what you meant. So Rachel, tell us, what is your title and your role at PETA for our listeners?
So I'm the Director of Local Affairs. I work in the Cruelty Investigations Department. I have a very dynamic job. I'm very lucky. It's something different every day, but what I mostly work on is local and state legislation to better protect animals, specifically dogs who are kept outside 24/7. I also liaise with law enforcement in our local service area of Southeastern Virginia and Northeastern North Carolina. So when we find a situation and we need animal control to intervene, I am mostly the point of contact. And then when we work on cruelty cases in our service area, I liaise with either the sheriff's office or the police department, whoever oversees animal control, and also with the district attorneys that prosecute those cases. So, and then sorry.
No, go ahead.
I sort of help out with our community animal project, which is our field work. I speak Spanish, so I also travel to Mexico on behalf of PETA and organize free spay neuter campaigns. We also do field work in low income and underserved areas of Mexico, and so I do lots of different things with PETA.
Oh, that's wonderful. You know, Janet, when you hear that, okay, well, the dog is chained out, people don't understand. They're chained out usually without water, without shelter. They're usually full of parasites, not only fleas, but gastrointestinal worms.
In their own mess too, because they
And
can't
not
get
to
away
mention
from it.
emotionally.
Right.
And so when people are like, well, that dog's chained out. Yeah, chained out. How would you, it's like when you were a prisoner of war in Vietnam. I mean, it's just absolutely horrible. And you know, Rachel, we used to always say that owning a pet is a privilege, not a right. People that think, well, I can, it's mine, I can do anything I want. No, you can't. Not if you're a human being, and if you're a humane human being.
That's right. And our field workers, who are, you know, wonderful, compassionate people who are out there every day in these rural areas, especially in Northeastern North Carolina where we work, you know, a lot of the job is education and really trying to convince people and make them aware that these dogs, they feel love, fear, hunger, pain, loneliness, just like we do. They're pack animals. They want to be part of the family. And when education doesn't work, then, you know, we have to intervene and we have to pass laws that protect these dogs, and that there are consequences when you leave a dog out in the freezing cold with no shelter, their water's frozen. And I mean, I was looking at videos and photos from our field workers from yesterday. We picked up a female pit bull who was chained. She had given birth to 8 puppies outside on the chain. All she had was, I think she had one of our dog houses, and we were able to get her and her puppies surrendered, and they are at our shelter now. But there are so many frozen ice buckets, no, inadequate shelter, no shelter at all. They're tethered, their tethers or their chains are tangled. It's really, really awful. And so we also want to make aware that this is not just in rural areas. This is all over the country. This is a national epidemic.
And you know, think about it. How would she have the extra nutrition to feed those puppies? And puppies get low blood sugar. We call it hypoglycemia and hypothermia. Oh my gosh. So glad. Explain to me the procedure. How did you get to intervene? Because I know that can be tough too, as far as, well, no one's called to report this, or I called twice and no one's done anything. Explain to me how that went there.
Sure. So, as you know, PETA is an international animal rights organization. We're the largest in the world. We have more than 9 million members and supporters throughout our entities. But from our Norfolk, Virginia office, we have a local program, which is our Community Animal Project. We also have mobile clinics that offer free to low-cost spay-neuter services. And so our fieldwork division goes into these areas, and we've been helping in Southeastern Virginia, Northeastern North Carolina for more than 20 years. So we help thousands of animals, and we know people. We've been working with the same people sometimes for years. They tell a friend, they tell a family member, they call us, they ask us for dog houses, for free spay-neuter, for food, for flea prevention. And so our vans that our field workers use are equipped with pretty much anything that a cat or a dog or any other animal might need. And so we have relationships. And yesterday, this is a case that we had been to before. We knew the owner. He was obviously overwhelmed. And so when we offered, we always push for surrender. You know, we always talk to them. Hey, wouldn't you like to give this dog a chance to live inside with a loving family where they deserve, where they belong? And so this gentleman was overwhelmed. And so we were able to get the mama and the puppy surrendered. He still has 2 other dogs on the property. And so we will continue to go back and help and educate as much as we can.
It's almost like they're paramedics. Do you know what I mean? Going in they have all their equipment.
Yeah.
But how did PETA get started? Like how long is I don't know this. So how long has it been around? It's grown internationally. So can you give us a little history for our listeners?
Sure. So PETA started in 1980.
Oh.
And we have just since been growing and growing. Our first office was in DC, and then the office moved to Norfolk, Virginia. It was kind of based on, well, it was a little bit cheaper to live here. The area was nice, and so they moved the office to Norfolk. We had one floor in the building that we're in, which we ended up over the years taking over the entire building and purchasing it. We have a dog park right next to our building that PETA owns, and there are two dog parks. We're right on the Elizabeth River. It's really a lovely property. We have an office in DC, and then we also have an office in LA. But we have staffers that work all over the country, and then we have our entities internationally in London, in Asia, Australia, Germany. And so we're really international, and we have activists everywhere.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I have to tell you one story. Even though I'm a dermatologist, I was talking to one of my referring vets, and it was like on a Friday. And I said, so what are you doing this weekend? This is in Ohio. And she said, well, I'm going as the vet for the Humane Society to a chef whose home has like 40 dogs that we have to get them out of there.
Oh my God.
And I said, do you need some help? And she said, boy, all hands on deck. So me and my 5 office mates went, and I have to tell you, they all had scabies, sarcoptic mange. They all looked the same because they were all breeding. I mean, they were all little black and white collie mixes, and we heartworm tested all of them. We got them on, and the sad part, well, we got them all out of there. They were jumping out the windows. He didn't understand. He said, well, I'm feeding them. Like that was all they needed. So yes, I can't agree with you more, Rachel. Education is everything. But the agreement there was with the local Humane Society, we will take these dogs, get them better, find them homes. But we couldn't catch 2 of them. And so he was allowed to keep those. But I guess what I'm leading into is legislation. What can we do as Janet and I, even though we're animal rescuers, animal lovers, what can the normal person do to help get legislation against this kind of thing happening?
So one of the things that I do is I work with activists across the country that want to get legislation passed in their community, whether it's to ban pet shops or to ban pet shops from selling dogs that come from puppy mills, or whether it's tethering bans, or just strengthening the ordinance to have definitions of adequate shelter and space. And so the important thing is to know what are the laws on the books so that you can take action if you see a dog that's out there without shelter, or that maybe you have a tethering ban already in your community, so you can call animal control for that. And I think it's really creating relationships with local elected officials. We put these folks in office. They're there to serve at our will and do the things that are important to us. And so I work on relationships with the local and state elected officials in the communities. And for example, in North Carolina, we're working at the General Assembly. And so a lot of it is really talking to them, letting them know the work that we want to accomplish in the state. We may not agree on everything, but we can find common ground. We've made great strides in Virginia, and we have friends. Obviously, we work on both sides of the aisle because we're a nonprofit, so we can't support or oppose any political candidate, but we have great friends on both sides of the aisle. And so it's really about creating relationships, letting the people know what's important, because a lot of elected officials, they don't know that there are chained dogs all over their community. Mm-hmm. And so you have to get the word out there, go to city council meetings or county commissioner meetings, talk about the issues, show photos of dogs. If you're working on a chaining ban, show photos of dogs in your community. A lot of them don't know about it. And propose legislation, work with the county manager or if you find a council member or a commissioner who is sympathetic, maybe they can lead it, because really you need a champion. You need
Yeah.
somebody to push it through. And so if you can find somebody who is passionate about this, that's a great step.
Hey, did you know that Blue Buffalo makes prescription diets that are formulated by animal nutritionists and veterinarians? And they're used for dietary needs such as kidney support, gastrointestinal support, weight management, and our favorite, allergy and skin problems. They make a food allergic diet that's an alligator-based called NP, or a hydrolyzed salmon-based for dogs and cats called HF. So please, ask your veterinarian about Blue Buffalo prescription diets. As a veterinary dermatologist, I can tell you that the chronically affected allergic pet condition, also known as atopic dermatitis, is rarely ever cured, but it can be effectively managed. Command Deep Cleansing Shampoo from Vetramax is a top veterinarian prescribed treatment for skin problems resulting from chronic itch, pyoderma, and allergic dermatitis.
I like to use what my veterinarian tells me to use, which is Command Shampoo by Vetramax. It's super gentle on the skin and tough on that nasty unwanted bacteria. Libby smells great, she looks great, and she loves it.
Vetramax makes practicing veterinary medicine better by giving doctors high-performing, high-value, evidence-based products. Now, with Command Shampoo, you can bring that same quality into your regular home routine. Go to Chewy.com and enter promo code VETRAMAX15 to save 15% off on Vetramax Command Deep Cleansing Shampoo. Vetramax makes it better.
Well, don't you have a lot of celebrities that are involved as advocates?
Yes, one of the things that PETA does is we work with celebrities and influencers to push the campaigns and to get it out there to their followers. Some of them might not know about PETA, so we gain a lot of traction through them. And we work with, for example, athletes on our chaining campaigns or our adoption campaigns, and we take those billboards and we put them up in different states where maybe they play. We work with celebrities and influencers. Yes, we have a lot of PETA supporters in that area.
That's great.
I just, it kills me because I can't imagine that a legislator would vote against a law that's for the good of animals. I can't believe that. And in Ohio, I have heard, and I don't know this is true, Rachel, maybe you can help me, that the farm lobby plays a big role in preventing this animal legislation against abuse going through. That I can go on the property and film the abuse, but I get put in jail where the animal abuser doesn't.
Oh, well, because
Right,
you're
those-
trespassing.
Right.
And that's just a quandary to me. I mean, who would vote against a law that's against abusing animals? I mean, we all majority of us love animals. So I don't understand how we don't have enough laws supporting that.
Well, I do know in New York State, Governor Hochul passed that it started December 15th of last year, prohibiting the retail sale of dogs, cats, and rabbits. So the pet shops, like in the city, can't sell them anymore.
Okay, well,
Which
that's
is
a
huge.
start.
That's huge.
In Ohio, though, Janet, we've got
I
a
know.
lot of puppy mills.
I
I
know.
have a puppy mill mama. As
I
one
have a
of my
puppy
dogs.
mill mom.
And I have a China rescue dog as well, because the Yunnan Meat Festival, how horrible that is. Thank God I got Gidget out of there. I wish I could have gotten them all out. But yeah, I have an Amish rescue, and our heads are like this. We're battling them all the time.
So I can't really speak to Ohio. I'm not that familiar, but I can tell you that in North Carolina, for example, it's very ag forward. And so you have a lot of farmers and a lot of folks who are worried that if you pass a companion animal bill, like a law to protect dogs who are kept outside, that it will be a slippery slope to cows, to pigs, and they
Right.
don't want restrictions.
I've
And-
heard that.
Right. And they see, for example, us coming, PETA coming, and they
Yeah.
say, they're trying to take away our meat.
Right.
You know,
Right,
they want
right.
to end factory farming. And well,
Right.
yes,
I
of course
do.
we do. But that's a fight for another day. And right now, let's focus on the dogs.
Right.
And so
Yes.
we have legislators who may not, like I said before, may not agree with us on everything, but we can find common ground and we can do something for dogs. And I think that's what it's all about. And that New York law is, you know, is really wonderful. And I believe it's that they can only have dogs who are from shelters.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm
Not
happy
from
to hear
breeders.
that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so we hope that, you know, that has a domino effect, which sometimes it does, and that more states will pass laws like that.
Well, that answers my question, because PETA does often face criticism for some of the methods and campaigns, but from the way you're speaking, that's not their goal. They want to go in and rescue the animal, right? Is the priority.
Yeah, I mean, we want to expose any industry that is exploiting or abusing animals, whether it's companion animals, whether it's the fur industry, whether it's the food industry, whether it's experimentation. And so we put it out there
Yeah.
for the public to see. We're not creating anything, you
Right,
know,
right.
we're not manufacturing anything. This is where your bacon comes from. This is
Yeah.
where your wool sweater
yeah.
comes from. There is blood and there is cruelty and there's pain behind it. And so we put it on you to make the right decision. And we ask for people to be compassionate. And so if you're not ready to go vegan fully, maybe
Sure.
you do meat-free Monday, because just removing meat or dairy from your plate for even one day saves lives. There's a lot of misinformation, disinformation about
Yes.
PETA out there. And so sometimes, you know, we sort of have to dispel that when we meet with legislators or folks, which is fine. But what we're doing is we're bringing attention to very serious issues. And sometimes we do that in a fun, playful, tongue-in-cheek kind of way. But it's really to get people talking about it.
Right.
And it,
You know, so many people, when I'm walking Gidget, my China rescue, I'll say, you know, she's from China. I'm like the biggest advertiser of this. You know, she's from China. Oh, I said, yeah, they eat them there. They prefer golden retrievers and Siberian Huskies for their taste. And there's a Yunnan meat festival. They have no clue, no idea. And I feel every time I meet someone, and because Gidget's a love, and they fall in love with her, and awareness is everything. They've got to know, and you know, with PETA showing what's going on, for example, with how pigs are treated and the sheep that are sheared. When I was in vet school and I saw how the sheep were sheared, I thought they throw them down, and it's just absolutely horrible. I think people don't want to think about it, and I don't want to get real militant or anything, but I get that way because if you knew, you would change your lifestyle.
that's the goal. That's the goal. A lot of people, they don't want to think about the meat on their plate as being an animal, and they don't want to
Right.
think that maybe that animal had a baby or, you know, had family members, is lonely, is scared, just the way we would feel.
Yes.
And so it's really just about pushing the envelope, pushing people, making sure that they can't turn away. It's really hard to turn away. I mean, everybody is on social media these days. It's really hard to not see. I'm surprised that you run into people that don't know about countries that continue to eat dogs, because it's so out there, you know. And I mean, social media is a great place to platform ideas. And sometimes, you know, if we have a dog that's chained out, or that's kept chained without any shelter, and law enforcement isn't acting, yeah, we will have to put something on social media and, you know, ask
Yes.
people, please reach out to law enforcement. And that's what you have to do sometimes.
Yeah. You know, we had Mission Canine Rescue on, where the dogs that were military dogs were just left overseas. And their goal is to get them over here, get them normal again after the trauma they've been through over there, and hopefully reunite them with their original handlers. People had no idea about that. So again, you're right. The awareness really helps.
Yeah, and that's also why we work with celebrities, people of influence, because they can get the word out. There's, we have this idea that we want to sort of follow what the celebrities do and do what they
Yes.
do. And so that's why, for example, when we work with celebrities that have adopted instead of buying, because we want to push adopt, don't shop. We don't want people to go to breeders. We don't want them to go to pet shops. And that's why we have this overpopulation crisis of companion animals, and our shelters are full. And people get mad when shelters have to euthanize, but they have to take a look at what they're doing. Are they going to a breeder? Did they go to a pet shop for their animal? Are they not spaying and neutering their companion animal? And so really, we just have to get the information out there. There's just so many issues.
Well, there is, and I think it's easier for people not to want to think about that. I think it's a denial thing. But again, it comes back to, we all live on this planet, no matter what species we are, and we all want to live.
Well, and Rachel, that's why they're called influencers. Right. Because they can influence people and educate people. So
I love that some of the NFL players, when they go to a city, they're bringing in adoptable shelter dogs and saying, hey, and then, oh, look, I got a dog that Patrick Mahomes was holding. Good. I hope he holds all of them, because then they'll all get adopted.
Mm-hmm. We recently worked with Daniel Suarez, who is a NASCAR driver.
Okay.
We worked with him on a campaign about making dogs part of the family, not leaving them outside on chains. And it was wonderful. And he is in North Carolina, and so we put his billboards up. And so people like that, like I said, maybe some NASCAR fans, they don't follow PETA. They don't really know what we're about. They think we're, crazy hippies sitting around eating, granola or something. But if they see that Daniel Suarez is working with us and supports our work, then maybe they'll give us a chance, and so that's why, I think that's also why PETA, we're so global, we're everywhere, but we also work on spay neuter, and our local program in Virginia and North Carolina is so important to us. The push for sterilizing and not turning animals away, and just helping everybody that we can. And we never turn our backs on an animal in need.
do you have a personal experience or a story that really deepened your commitment to animal rights so that you would do this work for PETA?
Well, I found out about PETA. I was living in New York City, and I was up one night very late, and it was an infomercial, or it was a very late night video, and it was Charlize Theron when she did the voiceover for our puppy mill video. And the next day I was so moved and I was so affected by it that the next day I joined PETA. And my life sort of turned throughout the years, but then when I was living in Spain and my personal life was changing and I was coming back to the States after having been gone for almost 10 years, and I wanted to do something that I was passionate about. And that's when I applied to PETA, and I got the job, and I moved to Norfolk. I'd never been here before. My boss, my supervisor, who has been my supervisor for almost 12 years now, the time that I've been at PETA, she said, we'll give you a chance if you give us a chance, because usually when you apply to PETA, especially in the cruelty investigations department, you would come and you'd work for a few days in the office and go in the field and stuff. But they gave me an opportunity, and honestly, it was the best decision that I have ever made in my life. And I can't believe it's almost been 12 years, and I love it. I love it. PETA is amazing. The people I work with are amazing, and just getting to advocate for animals every single day is such an honor, and there's so much work to be done. Yes. So we try.
So when you go out on one of these calls, like, are you in a uniform, like a bat? Like, how does it look?
Yes, we do have a uniform that we go out in so that people recognize us. Our vans have magnets on them depending on the season, whether it's bring animals in if you're thirsty, If it's too hot for you, it's too hot for them. If it's too cold for them, or too cold for you, it's too cold for them. And so people know our vans in the areas that we work in, and the dogs know our vans. And so sometimes they'll see our field workers arrive and they just get so excited and their tails start wagging. And sometimes it's really the only affection that they get, because most of the dogs that we help that are chained or penned outside 24/7, 365 days a year, they're really there either as a cheap alarm system or to breed and sell the puppies or a possession. You know, we really haven't cracked the code as to why people accumulate these animals when they don't really have enough to take care of themselves. And you know, we help a lot of people in very low income areas that would give their last meal for their animal.
Yes.
But, you know, and so it's not really an issue of poverty or anything like that, because you can be poor and take very good care of your animal. So it's not about that. It's about treatment. And so it's, we have different cases that we visit, you know, and sometimes at the end of the day, the field workers will do their report and they'll sort of put a follow-up based on the condition. If the dog is looking skinny, then we want to go back in a few days. If it's urgent, we want to go the next day. If it's the dog is looking okay and we can wait, you know, a few weeks, then we'll do that. But we have thousands of cases that we visit. And then sometimes we find animals on the way that we hadn't planned on stuff, or an emergency will come in. And so
Blue Buffalo Natural Veterinary Diets offer a natural alternative in nutritional therapy. With their in-house research and development team with over 300 years experience in well pet and veterinary therapeutic diets, more than 600 scientific publications, and more than 50 U.S. patents. Blue Buffalo Natural Veterinary Diets. Now there's soothing relief for your pet's irritated skin from allergic response, contact allergens, and insect bites. Atopicreme HC by Vetramax is a unique anti-inflammatory, rehydrating leave-on lotion conditioner for animals that is quickly absorbed, providing sustained benefits while leaving no residue. Fortified with ceramides, these lipids help restore the skin's natural protective barrier and aid in healthy skin regeneration for your pet. Atopicreme HC is made in the USA and not only provides quick relief for irritated skin, but it's also an aid in detangling your animal's coat. Ask your distributor about Vetramax products. Vetramax makes it better. Hey everyone, don't forget to pick up Country Critter Journal if you live in Northeast Ohio. It's a must-read for all pet lovers. Their goal is similar to ours here at the podcast, to educate the community on taking care of pets. They're advocates for adopting from shelters, not puppy mills, and they connect our local communities with goods, services, kennels, and those seeking to adopt a pet. They're a hometown paper with a personal touch. A must-read for all pet lovers, Country Critter Journal.
So what if one of our listeners, like, what if I see a dog or a pet being abused? What do I do?
Well, don't leave the scene. Call law enforcement immediately. Stay where you are. You know, do you mean like at a house, at a residence?
You know, anywhere.
Like
I'm driving by and I see a dog chained up on a fence.
Or you see someone beating their dog.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I would call law enforcement right away.
Okay.
And don't leave the scene.
Okay.
You know, and if you see a dog that's outside right now, we're dealing with the cold, and they don't have shelter, or they look to be in distress, call your local law enforcement, call animal control. People can call us if law enforcement isn't responding. But you know, we also January is Unchain a Dog Month, which is something that PETA kind of put together. And so we're posting a lot on social media. We have a lot of people that reach out to us for help with dogs in all over the country, really all over the world. People email us about animals that they see that are being neglected or abused. And we want to empower people. So, you know, some of the things that you can do right now, if you see a dog that's outside in the cold, you can go and talk to the owner if you feel comfortable about that. Talk to the owner, see if maybe they would consider bringing the dog inside. We deliver a lot of straw bedding in the winter. We stuff their shelters or their dog houses with it. We put it outside, so it doesn't necessarily keep them warm, but it insulates their shelter. So you could deliver straw. You could buy it on Amazon or your local farm supply or tractor supply store. Or if you don't feel comfortable, you could have it delivered to the address, put a note that says, stuff this in your dog's doghouse. You could send them care packages with toys and treats, really just trying to get that person to see their dog as an individual with needs, just like we have. You could offer to maybe walk the dog. So we want people to feel empowered, not just to call animal control or call us, but try to get involved if they feel comfortable, if they feel that it's a safe environment to do
when
that.
When do the police call you? In other words, if they don't have, how can I say, if they feel they can't help the situation, then they'll call you? Or...
Yeah, so, people will call us or reach out to us if they've called law enforcement and law enforcement hasn't been responsive. But in some of the localities that we work in, they will call us because we have a relationship with them, and they'll say, this person, they're doing the best they can. Their dog could use a dog house. Could you guys go out and talk to them? Or they need flea prevention. They need some food. They've fallen on hard times. Could you guys go? And we will absolutely do that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of new programs. I could think of one, City Vet, where, there used to be a big controversy. Well, these homeless people, they can't afford a pet. Why should they have one?
Oh, no.
This is the only love they know.
Yeah.
And like you said, Rachel, they'll give up their own food to feed the dog. And my friends that do some work with City Vets, there's wonderful connections there. They follow these dogs out for 3, 4, 5 years. They check on them every month. I mean, there's a lot of inner city, at least beginning now, it'll reach out into rural areas, vet care that's free for people that can't afford it.
Absolutely.
That's great. Vet care has skyrocketed.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. And may I just say, it's due, in my opinion, and I'm sure, and I don't care because I'm retired and I'm old, so I'm going to speak my piece. But corporate has not helped the veterinary profession. And for example, when I would do an ear smear on a dog, it was $25. I was helping out a rescue group the other day, and there's no charge for what my professional fees, but the vet office charges. That same ear smear was $75. And that's not even the specialist. I'm the specialist. I'm supposed to be more expensive. I'm embarrassed by that, Rachel. There are some people that are not going to get vet care for their pets because it's so astronomical. And I do blood work on my pets, and of course I send in the lab and I pay cost. It's double cost what it used to be when I retired 5, 6, 10 years ago. It's unbelievable, and it's embarrassing.
It is, and so that's also one of the reasons why we really try to encourage people to think before they bring an animal into their home. There are a lot of impulse buys or adoptions. We saw that with COVID when people were at home working. The adoptions went up, and that was great, but there wasn't really a plan for when people go back to work. And so the shelters became inundated again with homeless animals. And so if somebody is thinking about bringing an animal into their family, we're all about adoption. We want dogs and cats, animals to be in loving homes, but where they can be taken care of for their life. Right. And the price of veterinary care, it's astronomical. And we get a lot of people that say, well, I just got this puppy. Can I have some food? Oh. And, and we say, we're going to help you this time, but food is the most basic thing that you should be able to provide for your animal. Notwithstanding the vaccinations every year and the health visits that we have to do, and God forbid something happens to your animal and you have to take them in, and it's thousands of dollars. And so that's also one of the things, you know, that we advocate for is low cost vet clinics. But there seems to be, and I hope maybe you'll agree, Alice, that there's a shortage of veterinarians, and a lot of them retired after COVID.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to get in to see a vet now.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And a lot of, and I'm not saying this is the reason, but for example, my alma mater, Ohio State, 81% of the class this year is women. And a lot of women aren't in it for full-time, long
Right.
time. You know, they're in it full-time now and they have families, which is fine. And then they go part-time. Well, then we need people to fill those hours. Yeah. So you're right. The amount of care is diminishing, and the sad part is the costs are just rising. I know everything's going up, but we've had some vets on the show that actually do low cost, and there are programs for low cost spay and neuter. But it's more, like you said, Rachel, it's more than just the food or spay and neuter. It's heartworm preventative, because then in a year that dog's going to be heartworm positive. If he lives through the treatment, you know, not to mention the cost of the treatment. That's just one example. It's low cost vet care. We had on a vet from my vet friend from the Animal Protective League of Cleveland, and I have to tell you, that is the statement place for low cost pet care. That's fabulous care. And actually, she told me, she said, you know, Alice, we have such fabulous donors. I could have any piece of equipment I want. And the problem is they don't have time to learn how to use it because they're doing so much good for the community. I just wish, you know, so many bad things are said about Cleveland, even by me, a local, a native Clevelander. But boy, the APL is a godsend there, and it's a gem. Yeah. If we could only inspire that in other cities, and I'm sure there are similar programs in other cities, but again, it needs to be publicized.
Yes, and it's getting harder and harder to find vets to do the low cost, and
Yes.
the shelters that have low cost, it's really hard to get in there. We have 4 mobile spay neuter clinics.
Oh,
we
wonderful.
do low to no cost most of the time. We do it for free. We don't turn an animal away based on the financial situation of the guardian. And sometimes it's hard for us to find vets and LVTs, and there seems to be a shortage in Virginia, but all over the country we see
yeah.
it. And yeah, people just, you know, they need to take this into account when they are thinking about bringing a companion animal into their family, that this is what they're up against. And it's not impossible, obviously, but it is something to factor in.
And in veterinary medicine, shelter vets used to kind of be like, oh, she's a shelter vet. Listen, not anymore. Shelter vets are gold because they are like a MASH unit doing, you know, triaging and treating and finding the least cost way to get this animal better, which to be honest, I think should be more looked into in veterinary schools, because not everyone can afford an MRI for their pet.
No, and you know, when we do the spay neuter clinics in Mexico, a lot of the people that come to our clinics, we do them in schools or community centers in underserved areas. A lot of the folks, they don't have cars. They bring the dogs on bicycles or they carry them. And we have amazing vets that work at our clinics. Our last one in November, we had vets from Brazil, from Cuba, from Mexico. We were doing tail amputations. We were doing pyometra surgeries. We found dogs with TVT. Alice, I'm sure that you're aware of that. It's just all over Mexico. I think probably in South America as well. And it's inspiring to see that. And these services that we can go in and offer, and all of this is free. We vaccinate, we give flea prevention, we'll bring dog houses if the animal doesn't have shelter. And so And that is through our Global Compassion Fund, which is something that, people can donate to. It really helps our work in Mexico, in Ukraine, in other parts of the world. And, a lot of it is spay, neuter, and rescue.
So
Hey, have you ever run, Janet, I have to ask her, just one really, a fan gush question. Have you ever run into Dr. Jeff, Rocky Mountain Vet?
So it's so
Did you?
funny. Well, no, I haven't met him personally, but the vets that we partnered with
Trained with him.
They're Planned Parenthood International, and those are the vets that worked at our last clinic.
Oh, I love it.
They're amazing. They're
I
amazing.
so admire what he does. That to me is true veterinary medicine. That's why I went into veterinary medicine, because to help these pets and be able and not, my philosophy was, if I can pay my employees and pay my building expenses and maybe take something home, I'm good. Why do I need to make $1 million? I'm working, loving what I do, and that's what he does, and I love that about him.
Yeah, and his vets, they train, they're amazing. They're so fast. They make these tiny incisions. It was a privilege to work with them. A lot of the vets that we work with in Mexico, they have trained with him, and they have worked at his massive 1,200, 1,500 animal spay neuter clinics. So we want to continue working with his vets again.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Okay,
amazing.
Janet, sorry.
Speaking of fundraising, you're a nonprofit. So do you receive government funding, corporate funding? So what is your fund? Where does it come from?
Private donations. We are 100% nonprofit. So everything, all of the animals that we can help is really thanks to our wonderful, supportive donor base. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. So you don't have really any corporate donors then?
I don't think so. We work with companies in our development department that want to go vegan or cruelty free,
Right.
and I'm not sure if they give any donations. I know that sometimes they send us products that I get to give as swag or we send out that we get to try out as well. But yeah, we have a very generous, supportive donor base, and that's where we're able to get all the funding to do all of this work.
And we'll be sure and put the website up on the screen.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, Duke will take care of that for us.
Thank you.
I
Okay,
just
so we
love
have-
when
Go ahead.
like celebrities like Ricky Gervais speaks in for animals and kind of condemns people in his funny way. It's nice that it's, instead of this is horrible, and it's nice to keep it light but still get that message through.
Absolutely. He's wonderful.
He
Bill
is.
Maher as well.
Oh yes, Bill Maher. Yeah.
Yeah, all of the celebrities, they have their followers and their supporters, and it's a way to get the message out as well. So we're so appreciative of all of the celebs and influencers that work with us.
So
Do you-
Rachel, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, do you have, Janet was head of fundraising for a community fund, so that's why. Do you guys have like an annual fundraiser, like where people
like
get
a
all
gala?
Yeah, like a gala.
So
That'd
I know
be fun.
I know we have galas for milestones for the 40th year for when PETA Latino turned 10 years old. I think we had a big event. I did not go to it. It was in Los Angeles. But we're fundraising throughout the year, and right now, obviously with the cold, we're really fundraising for dog houses. We have these dog houses that we build at our Norfolk office. They're wooden. They have an overhang for shade in the summer. They have a wind flap to keep the wind out. They're raised off the ground. They're insulated. We do different sizes depending on the dog, and so people can send money just to sponsor a doghouse, to be part of that program, to buy straw that we give out. So, as a nonprofit, you're pretty much fundraising throughout the year.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great idea. I mean, to be able to donate, it's not like you have to donate $1,000. No. You can donate a bale of straw. Or how wonderful to know that you've donated for one of these dog houses to keep this animal alive and warm in the winter.
You know what's so cute here is our senior center is in the former middle school. So there's a wood workshop. And there's a bunch of guys there that you can take your furniture and get it repaired. And they made some things for me at the other nonprofit I worked. Some things where people could donate groceries and stuff. But think of that in like communities, they could be making those dog houses. Those guys would love that project, right? And we used to just pay for materials, but it's something simple like that. If that speaks to a donor, like you said, Alice, they could just donate enough for a bale of hay or
you can donate your time, like
Yep.
at Crow here, the Care and Rehabilitation of Wildlife Hospital. We have the retired gentlemen that are called the Hammerheads, and we lost all those enclosures for our
Yep.
raptors in one of the 3 hurricanes, and they're there every day rebuilding those enclosures. And I know it's just even little things you wouldn't, even if you want to walk a dog at the shelter, it just brings a little bit of joy to that dog, and I'll tell you, it brings joy to that human too.
yes.
Yes, absolutely. And we've shared our doghouse plans with groups that want to build their own, because our doghouse has been modified over the years to accommodate these backyard dogs. The insulation, the flooring, the softer flooring, we tried different materials to make sure that it lasts. And so we have shared. So if there are groups that are interested in getting our doghouse plans, we would be happy to share them.
I love that. And I love the little porch there, so they can lay under and get some shade.
Yeah,
You can do some shiplap, you can do little shutters, you can be like fixer-upper.
But Janet, that would be a great school project for an elementary school
Yeah.
class, to first build it and then decorate it.
That or an Eagle Scout, or whatever the Girl Scout one is called Gold, I think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Our older sister is a middle school librarian at an all-girls school. That would be a great project for them, Janet.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell Penny about that.
So, Rachel, we have to ask the questions we ask all of our guests.
Oh.
What is your pet or human peeve? And I think I know what it's going to be.
You never know, Janet. It could be turn signals.
It could be turn signals. People who don't use them or overdo it. Click, 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 click.
Right,
And our
regularly.
second question is, and I think you've kind of already answered this, but like, what is the passion inside of you that drives you to do your work, the good work that you do?
So the first question is, what is my pet
Pet or
or...
human peeve?
Oh, well, obviously.
It's going to have to do with a chain. I can feel it coming.
Yeah, and people who think that, for example, we help a lot of pit bulls. Pit bulls are the breed that we find the most outside. And they think, this is a tough dog. He or she can withstand the cold. And pit bulls have very short fur. And they freeze. They're so cold. I could show you video of dogs shivering in the cold. And so that's one of the things, obviously, that keeps me up at night, thinking about these dogs. When the snow comes and people are like, oh, it's so beautiful. And it's so sort of bittersweet for us, because we think, the dogs are out there. And so what keeps me going is every time we have a victory, working in the cruelty investigations department, really every department in PETA sees really sad stuff happening to animals, really awful, awful things. And so we celebrate the victories, even if it's, like getting the mom and her puppies out of that situation yesterday, getting a formerly chained dog into a loving home, sterilizing over 300 animals in 2 days in Mexico, and knowing that those animals are not going to have babies again. Right. And so that keeps you going. And I think, people are passionate about different things, whether it's children, whether it's animals or the environment, and that's great. And so you choose what you're passionate about, and you keep plugging along.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you. Thank you for the great work that you do. It's meaningful, and we appreciate it, certainly. And Alice, did you have another question?
No, but it just so means everything to me. And one thing I've learned, Rachel, is it's the small steps. You might not be able to achieve perfection, but at least I got it this far, and that helped this much,
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Oh, we've so enjoyed it. I want to come visit her, Janet. I want to see those chihuahuas.
Anytime you want to, if you want to come for a ride along, if you want to come, if you're in the Hampton Roads area,
seriously.
To
But
know.
I'm going to tell you, Rachel, I have a dark side. I get very depressed about stuff like that. I really do. And I know. And I just, I would always, even though I live to get my patients better, I would dwell on the few that didn't get better. And you can't keep doing that because it just, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just a head case of mine. So
I understand completely. I understand completely.
Rachel, we can't thank you enough. I so appreciate what you do. Janet, what do you have to say?
Thank you so much for the good work that you do and making a difference in our world. We truly, truly appreciate you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
So this is Alice Novotny-Jeroman from Cleveland, Ohio, and
Janet Novotny King from Cleveland, Ohio.
we are the Novotny sisters. We've got it over those Kelsey brothers any day.
Thank you for listening, and we appreciate you. Don't forget to like us, follow us, and share us with your friends.
And kiss
and
those
one more
pets.
thing. And kiss those pets. But one more thing. Thank you so much to the Sanibel Recreation Center for allowing us to be there at their health festival last weekend. We had a blast. We met lots of people.
Heard about a lot of pets that
A lot
are
of cute
well
pet
loved and
stories.
answered a lot of pet questions. So
Handed out a
thanks.
lot of Blue Buffalo swag. We had a great time. So thanks for having us. Until
Thank
next
you.
time. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in today. We hope you learned some valuable information about making decisions about your pet's health.
And don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe on podcasts because we love to have those likes. Thanks so much for listening.
That's actually really good. You could both go bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, yeah.
How about woof woof?
This episode of Speaking of Pets podcast was sponsored by Blue Buffalo Veterinary Diets. Love them like family, feed them like family. And Vetramax Veterinary Supply. Vetramax makes it better.
Follow us on social at Speaking of Pets and listen wherever you get your podcasts.
The Speaking of Pets podcast is an SLA video production.